Hello and welcome back to Continental Club. We are back to discuss the hottest topics in European football with Mikey McCubbin and Henry Hill. Welcome back, guys. How are we doing? McCubbs, are you well?
Yeah, very well, thank you, Deeks. Yeah.
Good. Henry?
Good.
Yeah,
very well. Yeah.
You were mixing with Man City's women's team yesterday.
Yeah, no, it was wicked, actually. It was amazing. Lauren Hemp came over to give our colleague Ellis a handshake to say hello because she thought she was being interviewed by us. And then Ellis was like, oh, no, sorry, you're over there with a different Sky team. He didn't see her hand, but she looked really annoyed. She was like,
wow. Absolutely.
One of these whole...
Yeah, I was like, Ellis, I can't believe you've just inadvertently blanked.
One of England's finest.
One of England's finest, exactly. But no, it was really cool. Steph Houghton, lovely. She was very nice.
Oh.
It was quite surreal seeing all of them, actually, especially after this summer.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, I love that. Yeah, no, very well, thank you. Very well. Excited for the Champions League to return next week, which is our topic of today's show. It is back on Tuesday. The biggest game on Tuesday, arguably Milan versus Newcastle. But there is also PSG versus Dortmund. Of course, that group is just absolutely mouth-watering as well. We're going to be talking all things Champions League, and we're going to kick off with our dark horses for the competition. We haven't asked for any viewer suggestions. These come from the heart. They come from within. We did talk about this, actually, is worth saying, on this week's Team Talk, but that was with Zach and Joe, and it was a bit more jokey, it was a bit more jovial, etc. This is actually our real picks. So, Henry, your dark horse for the Champions League 2023, 2024.
Well, there's two levels to this. I think there's the dark horse in that the team that I think could be a disruptor and go further. I think PSV will get out of their group with Sevilla, Lens and Arsenal. Peter Bosch has got them playing fancy football, which, could go either way with
Bosch.
with the Bosch himself, yeah. But I like their signings, Noah Lang, Tillman. They battered Rangers in the qualifiers, so I've got confidence they'll be okay. Galatasaray as well. I mean, we just love them, aren't they? They're going to do some bits, certainly in that group. But I think in terms of who's going to win it from the dark horses, and it's weird to call Atletico a dark horse because this is a team that's been in the Champions League for 11 years straight. I think that's huge testimony to Diego Simeone, his records. A team that has got to the final twice, another semi-final, and 2 or 3 more quarterfinals in that period. Yes, they had a bad year last year, finished bottom of their group, but that is an anomaly within the context of their European adventures. The change in the Atletico mood over the last 9 months, let's say, is remarkable. And if we roll back to January last year, I was even reading an Athletic article about this earlier, and there were deeply unhappy characters throughout the club. I think finally a fan base, ownership, and team had essentially got fed up with Simeone's style of play. It even seemed like Simeone was getting fed up. It looked like he was tired in many ways. It is a long period, especially in modern football. To be at a club for a decade is a remarkable achievement, but also, you need to evolve. You need to keep moving. And I think the president of the club, you asked me why I've got his name written down, Hilmarin,
I think it is.
Oh my God. I lost my note. I can find it there. Hilmarin. Sorry, I'll just keep going. But yeah, Hilmarin, he was basically courting Luis Enrique last year around January. He was saying that Luis Enrique was in for the job before Diego Simeone got the role, and he was saying, because this when Enrique was available, it looked like it could happen again, and he was basically saying he inferred that the levels of success Atletico were enjoying under Simeone, even the fans grow tired of that kind of winning at some point. They need to demand more, and sometimes change is needed. But then they have evolved. Since the second half of the season last year, the 19 games, they would have won the division in terms of the points they got. 43, I think that's 4 more than Barcelona, 10 more than Real Madrid in that period. And they outscored them both considerably. And their defensive record was still really strong across the second half of the campaign. And then this year, they've gone off like an absolute rocket once more. I mean, that 7-0 battering of Rayo Vallecano maybe flatters to deceive slightly, but because Rayo Vallecano were a complete mess. But they are looking just unbelievably sharp, and that's quite surprising when you consider that they've spent very little, 60 million euros in the last 3 windows, including January last year, and they've sold 110 million euros in that time. Look at the additions this summer: Javi Galan, Soyuncu, Azpilicueta. It's not blockbuster, is it? I mean, these are sort of old heads. They've got the oldest squad in La Liga, and not loads of sell-on value. That's their big challenge, I think, over the next few years, is going to be bringing in young guys, and they are slowly doing that. Samuel Lino, young guy coming in at left wing. Riquelme too. So they are slowly beginning that process, but there's not tons of sell-on value. But you do feel like the squad is suddenly in a position. Now they've unleashed the shackles, as it were, and are scoring. It looks like the loss of Carrasco will be fine. They've got players on the left who can compensate for that. They've suddenly got a front three, and you're looking at it. Griezmann, who was arguably Player of the Year last year. Morata, who's now captain of Spain and is scoring loads already this term. Llorente's back in the goals now. We saw Angel Correa score again after a sort of a down period last year, after being kind of like the man for Atletico at points, certainly over the last few years. That attack is purring, and they've got Depay too, who I think is the fact they got him from Barcelona for 2-3 million euros. It's
crazy,
still
wasn't it?
quite a remarkable deal. So, yeah, the shackles are off, as I said. They are playing really aggressive football. And if you look at their group with Lazio, Celtic and Feyenoord, they will get out of that. I was wrong. I said that last year with, Bayer Leverkusen and
They really
Club
should.
Brugge. But they really should get out of this group.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be a problem because they're still not conceding loads of goals. They're still scoring for fun. They drew at Betis this year. Fine. Also got a 3-1 win at home to Granada, I think. So they have reasons to believe, and Simeone is such a good cup manager. We've seen over two legs how they can be so dogged at home and sort of just grind out results. Saul Niguez is back playing well. Koke is sort of going under the radar, such a consistent guy once more. It's just a team stacked with experience and know-how playing at the peak of their powers at the moment, and I think that makes them such a deadly proposition. And I think they really
What are you expecting then?
I think they could get to the semi-finals. I think they could. I think they could upset a big boy along the way. And once they're at the semis, it's anyone's game.
Love that. Love that. I think it's quite a good shout in that, last year with Inter, it was pretty telling that, through the latter stages, they could rotate Lautaro Martinez, Dzeko, Lukaku. They could even use Joaquin Correa. And Atletico Madrid have a similar sort of thing. They've got a great stable of 4 forwards that can all contribute at different times. And I think in knockout football, that's really pretty crucial. They've obviously got experience of going deep beforehand, but it's not really with the same current crop of players. Their current history is actually a little bit of underperformance. But I'm kind of with you. I think they're going to have a really good year in La Liga and hopefully improve in the Champions League too. McCubs, anyone that's watched Team Talk yesterday would have probably loved the fact that you went hard for Leipzig.
Yeah, I did.
And he's gone again.
I've gone again. I don't necessarily think they're going to make the final, but who knows? Stranger things have happened in the Champions League. And I think Leipzig have, like Atleti, started the season really, really strong. And I think, unlike Atleti, I think they've got probably better depth throughout the side, especially actually in the forward line. I think Leipzig have maybe the best. It might be a bit too strong to say. They're definitely second to Bayern in terms of depth in the forward line. I think in terms of interchangeability, maybe they do have better depth in the forward line. They just brought in so much talent in the summer. They've got experienced heads there now, someone like Timo Werner, who is a well experienced player now, and he's not even really making the starting lineup anymore. The new signings have just gone off so well. Like Xavi Simons already has 2 goals and 3 assists in the Bundesliga. Sesko, 2 goals. Obviously got that great brace the other day. He's unreal. He's yet to even start a game, but Lois Openda already has a couple as well. Obviously beat Bayern, absolutely thrashed them in the Super Cup 3-0 with that Olmo hat-trick. And also, they lost narrowly to Leverkusen on the opening day, but they followed that up with, thrashings over Stuttgart and over Union Berlin, who are also both in the top 5 in the Bundesliga after the early weeks of the season. So they've already beaten some pretty decent opposition. Union Berlin aside, who are also, looking to make a dent in the Champions League this year as well, or make a bit of an upset after a great summer of business. I think Leipzig are in a really, really good spot, and it feels like Marco Rose finally is having the big breakthrough that I think his career has deserved up to this point. He's just got such a great group of talent there. He was speaking about Xavi Simons the other day, saying how he wants him to stay beyond this season, and how he was using kind of Dani Olmo as an example of a player who came to Leipzig probably, saw it as a stepping stone, but is now a key leadership figure within that side. And yeah, I was amazed that no one really came in for him in a serious way in the summer when they were, selling so many other big players for big money. I think he will be crucial to their hopes in the Champions League. They've got, City in their group. Obviously, City famously beat them 7-0 last season in the knockouts. But yeah, I think this Leipzig side are, in some ways, I think that they are potentially, they're at least as good as they were last season, despite losing Nkunku, despite Szoboszlai leaving, despite Gvardiol leaving. Because I just think I just think that attack works better now, and is less reliant on individuals. I think Lois Openda is probably the best out-and-out centre-forward they've had since Timo Werner was at his peak. And even he wasn't really an out-and-out centre-forward, but he was, a huge goal scorer for them. I think in terms of just having someone who will run in behind constantly, Openda is that guy. I think Xavi Simons has a higher ceiling than someone like Szoboszlai, even though they are both immensely talented and among the best young players in Europe. And I think the signing of Lukabar from Lyon was excellent. Simecane's had a really strong start to the season as well. So defensively, they look decent, even if they probably will lose a bit of, Gvardiol's overall ability. Aside from City, that group is very easy to get out of. I think Young Boys and Red Star shouldn't pose too much of a threat from them. I think they should be getting at least 6 points from the four meetings, and then, I think they stand a chance of holding City at home. So yeah, I think they will get out of the group fairly easy, and then, okay, they will probably finish second. But then at the same time, I can see them causing an upset against a club like Napoli or a club like Inter or Barca or Atleti in the round of 16, all clubs who may finish top of their
Arsenal?
groups. Maybe even cause an upset against Arsenal. Whoa. Who knows? But yeah, I would back them over 2 legs, or at least back them to give any of those sides a really decent game. Obviously, it depends what injuries are looking like kind of halfway through the season. But if come January or February, Leipzig are, still only, maybe they're top of the Bundesliga, or they're only a couple of points off Bayern or off Leverkusen, and they've got that kind of momentum, and Xavi Simons is already on 10 goals and 5 assists or whatever it is in the league, or I just feel like this Leipzig team are going to really build momentum as the season goes on, and by the time we get to the knockouts, they could be a real team to avoid.
I think a big Red Star is not a fun away day.
It's not a fun away day.
Liverpool lost in the group stages there a few years ago. I'd love to see them beat or annoy City. I'd love to see Red Star really get in City's face. But yeah, I agree with you. Everything else.
But yeah, I think that's why I say they should be taking at least 6 points. Basically, they should be beating both of those sides at home. Yeah, you can't be expecting anything away at Red Star necessarily. But at the same time, they do have a really, really excellent team. Like, the quality in there is undeniable.
There we have it. They're in a great position as well, attracting players, because they're one of those clubs that isn't too romantic about making sure that you stay for 3, 4, 5 years. If you play well and you can give them a return on their investment, they're very happy to sell you and bring in another player. And they always play attacking, entertaining, vertical, high-intensity football. And lots of managers really appreciate that sort of style of play in the modern game. So I think they're in a pretty sweet position to carry on growing as a club, especially now they're winning titles or trophies occasionally as well. Right, my suggestion is more of a club just to watch out for. Maybe not a dark horse to win it, but maybe, a quarter-final. Real Sociedad. They have, slowly built over quite a while now under Imanol Alguacil. They're in their 7th year under him. And get this, so his seasons under him have gone 11th, 9th, 7th, 5th, 6th and 4th. So only 1 year where they've dropped back, and they only dropped back 1 place. Their 71 points last year was the highest for 20 years. Really, really impressive. 20 years ago, they finished 2nd. They've also proven themselves to be a pretty solid cup team in recent years as well. They reached the quarterfinals of the Copa del Rey last year, lost to Barcelona. They then reached the Europa League knockouts as well. They lost 2-0 to Roma. They got kind of Mourinho'd in that. There's nothing embarrassing about that. But they did top their, Europa League group. They won 5 out of 6 games. They finished above United on goal difference. So they've got some European experience in their legs now. They haven't played in the Champions League for a long time, actually since 2013-14, which was in the days where they had Griezmann, Inigo Martinez, players like that. So it's been a long time for Real Sociedad. So it's really, really exciting for them. Back then, they finished bottom of a group with United, Shakhtar and Bayer Leverkusen. So a pretty tough group as well. And this year, it's not a particularly easy group either. Inter Milan, Benfica and Salzburg. Salzburg haven't really been that impressive in the Champions League, to be honest. I mean, they did have that year where they had Haaland and Minamino and they caused some damage. I think they're in that group with Liverpool. But Benfica are pretty good at getting to the knockouts now. I don't expect that much of RB Salzburg, though, to be totally honest.
It's a tight group.
It is quite a tight group. Inter Milan, I think, are the clear favourites, given last year, given their start to Serie A. But I think Real Sociedad can get out of this. I really think they can. I mean, they had a really solid summer. So they got in Kieran Tierney, they got in Andre Silva on loan. They also got Hamari Traore on a free transfer from Rennes. He looked really exciting in their last game before the international break. They also got in Odriozola for absolute pennies, really. And Zakarian as well, who got 11 league goals and assists from Dinamo Moscow last season. He's actually got quite a big reputation.
Yeah. Chelsea were really trying to get him for a long time.
Exactly. And looks really, really exciting. They've still got Kubo, Oyarzabal, Mikel Merino, Zubimendi, Zubaldia, Bernachea. Like, they've got enough talent to cause, an upset or two in the Champions League. And I'd love to see them progress out of the group, especially because they don't have that much recent Champions League experience. That might count against them slightly, but I'd love to see it happen. So they are my dark horse to get out of the groups and maybe cause a little bit of damage once they're out there as well. Right, guys, those are our dark horses. We are also going to talk about winners and flops, though. Winners. Who wants to go first? Henry, you look nervous.
I'm not nervous at all.
You're confident
about
in this one?
I have gone for Bayern München. Yeah.
Bayern München.
I think the signing of Harry Kane is just such a game changer. Mm-hmm. And I think if we consider, like, the last few years, they've been trying to bumble on with like 4-2-2-2. They've been sort of messing around their formation just to accommodate a lot of these guys that can all kind of play in similar positions. The Mane transfer obviously didn't work out. Just getting Kane back and reverting back to formula with how Lewandowski used to have it, with just that guy spearheading the attack. I'm not saying Choupo-Moting didn't do it, but Kane is just levels above, isn't he? He's just levels above. And we've seen that so far already. 3 goals in 3 games so far, 4.5 shots per 90. His shots on target actually is actually at 30%, which is way down on his average of like 41, 42. So if once he gets that up and running again, then the goals could be even higher. I like the fact that his touches are down on his days at Tottenham, but then the rate of them in the final third and the penalty area are higher. That's where we want to see him play. I know we saw...
That's what Bayern wanted from him as well.
Yeah, I know that like amazing pass for... Kyle Walker to score his England goal. Like, that's beautiful. Great and whatever, but you still want to see Harry Kane in the box. Like, that. Because
he was pretty much picking up the balls off the centre-backs in that play.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't need to do that at Bayern.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So they've got the quality in behind. I loved hearing him say that at Spurs, if they lost 2 games, it wasn't a big deal. They won their first 2 games at Bayern. They were saying they didn't play well enough.
Spurs fans did not like that, though.
Yeah, well, it's true. It's true. They have to accept it. That is what's happening. I think he is such a big change. But beyond that, I think that Leroy Sané being back to his best is such a dangerous proposition for clubs everywhere. I mean, he's still only 27. He's got 3 goals this year so far. What I like to see about Sané is his shot distance always was quite far. He's always taking pot shots from distance. It's down to 14.5 yards, which is about 5 yards closer than his normal shot range is from. And he's doing 7.9 take-ons per 90 at the moment at a 70% success rate. I know that's only a small sample. Yeah. It's only a small game sample, but still.
He's got a great goal against France on Tuesday as well.
And this is the thing. This is another reason I think that Bayern are in an optimal position to win the league is the international team has now... Flick's been fired, and they're already seeing a pick-up in form in that game, beating France, World Cup finalists.
They look good.
Look good. If they can have a happy camp, which the majority of the Bayern players do play for the German national team, if they can go away in these breaks, and I think that it sounds like the international team has been something they've always loomed over these players recently. It's like, oh God, we've got to go do this. If that's going well, then that's only going to benefit Bayern even more. And they tend to have quite a good relationship. I was reading that apparently if they wanted Nagelsmann, they would negotiate a much easier compensation fee to get Nagelsmann. I think he's still under contract or something like that. I'm not quite sure what's going on. But anyway, the point is, a happy Germany is a happy Bayern. And I just think that they are looking so lethal. They've got Davies is back looking quality. Again, Kimmich already has 2 assists. Even Matthias Tell's got 2 goals off the bench, as a young upcoming striker. in a group with Manchester United, Copenhagen and Galatasaray, they absolutely should be getting out of that group. So without a shadow of a doubt, certainly with a World Cup, a sort of Champions League winning coach in Thomas Tuchel. They haven't actually played Man United since 2013-14, which I found surprising. They won that game then.
Scored some unreal goals.
Robin scored. I think Robin scored when they beat United in 2010 under Van Gaal. He may well have.
I was imagining like the one from the corner.
Yeah, no, that was in 2010. But the 2013-14 one was when Moyes got United to the quarterfinals.
Oh yeah.
And for about 2 minutes at the Allianz Arena, midway through the second half, after Everest scored an absolute screamer, it looked like Moyes actually was going to dump Bayern out of the Champions League. Like Champions League winning Bayern under Pep Guardiola. Mad to think, actually.
Sliding doors moment?
Was
is that what they say?
Yeah, it could have been. Imagine if Moyes had beaten Guardiola in the Champions League.
Oh, is that a ripple
where would he be at? Yeah, it absolutely is a ripple effect. Declan Rice would not have won the Conference League, that's for sure.
There we go. But yeah, no, it's just their record against English teams is really good anyway. They've only lost 3 times the last decade in 18 goes. And like 2 of those against City, weirdly. Like I was looking at that period against Arsenal where they just battered Arsenal relentlessly. But yeah, I just think Bayern, even if the Bundesliga is going to be tougher, that's going to raise their level even more this year. I just think that they're going to be so hard to beat whoever they come up against. It's still Bayern Munich, and I think with Kane up front, with Sane purring, with a lot of their kind of guys back to their best, they're going to be almost too hard to beat.
Fair enough. McCubs.
I've gone for the really obvious shout. Mainly because you guys took the more interesting ones. I came into this late. Man City. I've got to say, Man City. I think the fact that they've broken their duck now in the Champions League, I think that takes a lot of pressure off them. The fact that they've got the best number 9 in the world, I think also takes pressure off them in many respects in terms of going into games and, needing a game plan to beat. With Haaland, you don't necessarily even need that much of a game plan, really. Like, he's always going...
He needs to be playing well.
Yeah, you always have a chance. He's always going to get on the end of chances. And Pep, I think last year evolved City to be a better cup team. Like that's that's why they won that treble. And Haaland was a big part of that, but so was just the general the general side. I know Stones is coming back from injury imminently, isn't he? And he was a huge part of that. Dealt with the departure of Joao Cancelo, now have Gvardiol, who can play, multiple roles in the defence, can easily, step into the midfield as well. And they didn't really, I know they lost 2 very experienced heads in the summer in Mahrez and Gundogan, but they don't really look much weaker. And yeah, they may have like a slightly slow start to this year, but the reality is, I think they strengthened in the summer. That right hand side, with Jeremy Doku now in there, with Oscar Bob as well able to play there, Phil Foden,
Oscar Bob,
the Norwegian
Oscar Bob.
Oscar Bob, yeah.
I've never heard of him.
James behind the cameras has been raving.
Oscar Bob, what a great name!
You need to watch Citizen Wayne.
Yeah, need to watch Citizen Wayne.
Shout out James Wayne's
It's just
channel.
not Oscar Bob. Oscar Bob fan channel.
Is that
basically.
one word or is that 2 words?
Oscar Bob.
Is it Oscar Bob?
Oscar
and then
Bob. Yeah, Bob with 2 B's.
Legendary.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, go and check.
You'll know his name by the end of the year.
But go and sub to James's channel if you haven't already. So and Bernardo Silva, of course, can play on the right as well. Kovacic, has strengthened that midfield. I just don't think City are really any weaker than they were last year. And I think, crucially, unlike, say, Real Madrid, who are having to use, have had to change formation with Benzema leaving, unlike Bayern Munich, who, Thomas Tuchel only came in at the back end of last season. They've got Harry Kane, and now they also didn't get a couple of targets that they wanted in the summer, unlike PSG, who, once again, big squad turnover, unlike Napoli under a new coach, unlike Arsenal, who are still building a team. Still, I know they're not in transition, but they are still built. This is their first time back in the Champions League since 2016 or 2015 even. This City team are really, really settled. I think out of all the favourites, City are by far the most settled. And yes, KDB's out till January, but if he recovers, they're definitely going to win their group. I'd be surprised if they didn't. If KDB recovers well enough, they're going to have a peak fitness KDB ready to come back in for the knockouts. And in the meantime, someone like Julian Alvarez will have had a lot more game time in the Premier League and in the Champions League. I just think City once again look really, really scary, and on paper are just still better than anyone else in the competition. That's not to say they can't be upset, but I think it's in some ways it's less boring to back them now because they've actually done it. Whereas in seasons past, it was like, oh well, they're the best on paper, but they always get undone somehow. Now it's like, well, they do actually have that title to back it up, even though in the final they were probably second best.
Yeah, for long parts.
So yeah, I just think that this City team they are now really a proper big tournament team.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I think we'd all probably say City are probably the favourites, but I didn't want to talk about them. I wanted to go for an outside bet of Paris Saint-Germain.
You can't call them an outside bet.
They are an outside bet. I looked up the bookmakers' favourites.
Paris Saint-Germain are basically what City were before last season.
I looked at the bookies' favourites. They're 6th.
Really?
I think Man City,
Arsenal were favourites,
Bayern, Real. Then I think it was Arsenal. Then I think it was PSG. Maybe they were 5th. I think Barcelona were ahead of them as well.
Really?
So they are genuinely not really in the running,
I think that's
according
UK
to the bookies.
Bookmakers, though. I think that's UK bookmakers.
Look, they're in a very difficult group, as we've already talked about. But
that probably does have something to do with that, actually.
I was looking up some stats, which it's only a 3-year sample size, but sides that have generally been in difficult groups have progressed quite deep in the competition in the last few years. Like Inter Milan were in with Bayern and Barcelona. The year before that, Liverpool reached the final. They had Atletico Madrid, Porto and Milan in their group. The year before that, PSG reached the semi-finals after coming second in a group with Man United and Leipzig. So, it does seem to help at least in recent years, to have quite serious games first, big tests, maybe it gets them ready. And I do think they've strengthened quite well defensively this year in particular. I think Manuel Ugarte at the back, in the back of the central of midfield, I should say, and Milan Skriniar, Luka Hernandez as well, gives them an option of playing Achraf Hakimi and not 2 flying fullbacks at the same time. I think that's nice. And also, PSG have generally got to the latter stages of this competition and one of their star men, usually Neymar, isn't available, and that instantly detracts from the level of their attack. Whereas this year, they've got so many quality attackers. And yes, Ousmane Dembele is quite injury prone, but Kolo Muani and Gonzalo Ramos aren't, at least in recent years. Bradley Barcola looks really exciting. They've got Kang In Lee. Marco Asensio started really well. They've still got Kylian Mbappe. Probably going to be his final year at PSG. Has had some good Champions League performances with PSG, but probably hasn't had the moments in the bigger games that you'd expect for a player of his calibre in the same way that he has had in the World Cup at least. So I think he'll be really hungry to disprove his doubters as well. And PSG have generally come up against really high quality opposition. They've been so unfortunate with their draws. So since losing to Bayern in the final of 2020, they've lost to Man City in the semi-finals, Real Madrid in the last 16 and Bayern in the last 16. If they get a good draw, I think there's every chance they get to the semi-finals. And then, as Henry said earlier, who knows?
Yeah, when they got to the final, they played like Atalanta, didn't they? Was that in the semis?
I think they played Atalanta.
I think it was in the quarters they played Atalanta.
Yeah, Atalanta maybe in the quarters. Was it Lyon? No, it was Leipzig I think it was Leipzig in the semi-finals. Yeah. I think Lyon played Bayern. But yeah,
what a year. Christ.
Yeah, that was a strange year. The one-legged ties. That was strange. But I think PSG are an outside bet. Look, these two are definitely stronger favourites, but I wanted to mention someone different as well. And maybe I'll look like a little psychic if they get to the semi-finals. Although it wouldn't be a total surprise if they got to the semi-finals either. Right, let's talk about flops quickly. Who wants to go first on their flops?
Dukes, you go first.
I've just spoken. Why doesn't McCubs? Why don't you go
first? I can go. I was considering Arsenal actually, but I do think.
I was considering Arsenal too. There's no logic to it. I just think
this is every chance. Well, I think the thing is I think it's because we know Arsenal fans and every Arsenal fan we know is saying that they're going to get to the semi-finals.
They lost to Sporting in the Europa League last year.
This
and there's no excuse for it. They'll make an excuse for it. They'll say, "Oh, we were playing blah blah." It's like you were still playing Sporting, a team, great team, but still the fact they'd never won the Europa League in that period outside the Champions League is ridiculous.
And they've won so far. I think they've still. I think under Arteta they're still yet to beat a team they're still yet to beat a team from a top 5 league under Arteta in a knockout tie.
Damn.
So yeah, not that the Europa League necessarily throws up teams from the top 5 leagues all the time, but the one team they did face, they lost to. So yeah, and then going out in the knockouts last year in the Europa League. But having said that, I think Arsenal still will win their group, and then there's every chance they get to the quarterfinals, and I think quarterfinals is a very successful season for Arsenal. I don't think
they won't think it.
I don't think Arsenal will. I think come. I think come March, and if Arsenal are still in a title race and they've had injuries, etc., I think Arsenal fans will be very happy with a quarter-final exit to, say, Real Madrid or whoever. Like, I think that is a very successful first season back in the Champions League for Arsenal. So for that reason, I've not said them, and I have gone for Man United just because I think...
Stabbing your own club in the back?
Well, not necessarily. I'm stabbing in the front, actually. I'm doing this on camera. I think it's been a really tough start to the season for Man United. Away from the field, on the field. Ten Hag once again has had major problems. Anthony is now, until further notice, out of the team, as he is for Brazil. Obviously, the club, sold Greenwood loaned Greenwood in the summer. Away from the field, situations with players have been pretty murky situations, and the club has, away from the field has not dealt with them, I don't think, in a very good way. On top of that, Ten Hag and Sancho now have tension. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of Sancho coming back into the side. What will he have to do to get back into the side? Will he get back into the side? I'm not so sure. So the right-hand side of the Man United attack already is quite weak. There are injuries in key positions, of course. Mount and Varane hopefully going to be back by the end of September, but Luke Shaw's not back until the end of October at the earliest. They did get Reguilon on loan, and Malacia's due back at the end of September as well. So they have compensated for that, but nevertheless, Luke Shaw, when United have been good, Luke Shaw has been one of the 2 or 3 best players in the side, and nevertheless, it's an unsettled back line as it is. I think Martinez and Lindelof should be back this weekend, but again, there's just already a lot of change in that back line, especially when a new goalkeeper is having to get used to it as well. That's been a bit of a problem. The midfield, of course, has been a bit of a problem as well, and will be reliant on how quickly Sofian Amrabat can get up to speed once he returns from his small injury. The right-hand side, I feel like, inevitably Bruno will probably have to play out there, and maybe Mount, once he's back from injury, will get moved into the 10 position, which could work quite well. But anyway, I'm kind of getting bogged down in the team. The group is, I think, less than favourable. Obviously, Bayern away is the first game. I think the best United can probably hope for is a draw at Bayern, but yeah, it's not the best way to try and build momentum. They then have Galatasaray, that is, and Copenhagen at home in the following 2 games. United really need to win both those games to be confident of advancing from the group, because their final 2 games are Galatasaray away and Bayern at home. United have lost on each of their last 3 visits to Turkey. That's against Başakşehir, a very infamous loss to Başakşehir, where the defence was just completely... some of the worst defending I've ever seen. Fenerbahce and then Galatasaray, I believe both in the Champions League. Their last win in Turkey was against Bursaspor in 2010.
Hell of a team,
who are now playing in the Turkish 3rd tier. So
they got a crocodile for a stadium.
So yeah,
who's had a bigger fall from grace, United or Bursaspor?
Probably Bursaspor, let's be honest. But yeah, it's just a tough group. It's a tough group, and okay, yeah, like there's every chance. Like United could go to Galatasaray and win, but I think it's easy just to be like, Turkey's a really tough country to go to, the fans and everything. Like, United do still have decent experience in their side and have really good players, and are probably still more settled than Galatasaray, given how much business they did over the summer. But Galatasaray do have a lot of players who can hurt you in that forward line. Wilf Zaha will be so up for that. Be great to see him and Wan-Bissaka go up against each other in Istanbul. Oh, gotta love that.
Throwback to the training session that birthed Wan-Bissaka as a right back.
Yeah, exactly. And that tackle he put in on him last year, which was great. But yeah, I just think it's a really, really tough group, and I think there's a chance that Man United don't get out of it. And I think if Man United don't get out of the Champions League groups, given how much money they've spent since Ten Hag has come in, it would undoubtedly be a big flop.
Would he be under pressure?
Sorry?
Would he be under pressure?
Yeah, I think if any manager goes out in the groups of the Champions League, they're under pressure for sure at Man United after that kind of money spent. I think it depends on league form as well. But yeah, I mean, United, given the makeup of that group, should be coming second. But I just think the way that those fixtures are, if they don't beat Galatasaray and Copenhagen at home, then there is just massive pressure going into those final two games because if they then don't beat Galatasaray away and then have to beat Bayern Munich at home, then I would be worried.
Do you know what I didn't realise last year? Or I'd forgotten. Milan finished second behind Chelsea in their group and made the semi-finals. It's kind of crazy. Like you just need to get out of your group.
Yeah.
It sounds very basic, but just get out of there. And I think there's a little bit more room for error in those knockout ties, to be honest. Right, Henry, let's talk about your pick.
Yeah, I was going to, like I said, thinking about Arsenal, but I mean, I'll keep it brief. I think Benfica, not because I think they're going to do particularly well. It's just last year they were really exciting, weren't they? Got to the quarterfinals. I thought they were going to get to the final at one point. When
yeah, we were all predicting it, weren't we?
They were
Napoli,
absolutely pairing. And yeah, I mean, look, I could be completely I could be completely wrong. Roger Schmidt has still only lost 5 games in 60 for Benfica and has a win rate about 77%. If we look at their start to the season, they did win the Super Cup versus Porto. They were chaotic. I watched the highlights, the 3-2 defeat to Boa Vista. They had all the players inside Boa Vista's half and got caught in the break in the 98th minute or something like that. It was a real poor defeat. They also conceded 2 to Gil Vicente as well. And that 4-0 win against Vitória last weekend. Vitória had a red card in the 19th minute. You're expecting them to be bulldozed at that point. And I just think if you look at I think they were weakened in the summer. I think to lose Grimaldo, who's such a staple of that left-back position, so many assists over the years, we'll talk about him later, by Leverkusen, to lose Gonzalo Ramos as well. He got 19 goals. He was their top scorer last season. Their next top scorer was João Mario, who had a great campaign. Do I think João Mario can do it again? Probably not. He hasn't scored once in the 4 games in the league so far this term. His career's always blown hot and cold, hasn't it? That's kind of just been a feature of João Mario. And if you look at I don't think Arthur Cabral as a signing for 20 million euros is money really well spent. Let's face it, strikers for Benfica go to great clubs. That's how it's always been. And to get someone who's been stumbling at Fiorentina don't get me wrong, decent striker, and I think in the league will do fine. Talking about the Champions League, I don't think he's going to do very well. Sadly, you've got David Jurasek from Slavia Prague, 14 million euros. Don't know too much about him as a left back. Juan Bernat, I didn't even know he was still kicking a ball. In all honesty, he's gone there.
He's decent.
He's all right. He's fine. But then Kokchu's fine. Kokchu's a good signing. I like that. But I'm talking about really making a dent in the Champions League.
Di Maria, mate.
Di Maria is still you can't just rely on these guys to keep going forever and ever. And I think for the reasons you outlined, Dukes, with Real Sociedad, it's a tough group. It's a tough group. And I just think that Sociedad, was it Red Bull Salzburg and Inter, I think Benfica could get caught out. That said, last year in the groups, they managed to get through after that Maccabi Haifa was a miracle. So it's just a feeling that I think that this year their forward line is just looking a bit weaker. Rafa Silva is their top scorer so far on 3. He got 8 last year. So, and he's not in the Portuguese team prolifically either, is he? So I'm just slightly concerned about Benfica's chances given the group that they've got once more.
Okay. I'm going for the 14-time champions to flop.
Once again,
I've thought about it and I thought, should I go for something else? Is it crazy? And then I just thought, no, Doogie, Real Madrid are going to flop this year. I'm sure of it.
What does flopping look like to Real Madrid not making the semis?
I think they might not make the quarters.
Woo.
I just don't.
I think they'll get through their group. Even though it's harder than people think. I wouldn't be amazed if Napoli got a draw at the Bernabeu. And I think they could beat them at home.
I wouldn't be that amazed if Napoli ended up winning that group somehow. I think it could be tight.
And I think it would be a massive achievement by Ancelotti to get this squad to the semi-finals, given the injuries they've already got. I mean, Eder Militao out till April, might be out for the entire Champions League campaign. Courtois out till April, might be out for the entire Champions League campaign. Rudiger's a drop down on Militao, and Kepa's an enormous drop down on Courtois. They don't really have that much depth in forward areas. Their forwards are Rodrigo, Vinicius Jr., Bellingham, if you want to count him as a forward, but I don't, Joselu, Brahim Diaz. I think that's it. They got rid of Mariano Diaz, Asensio, Hazard in the summer, and unless I'm forgetting someone obvious, they just don't have the depth. And yes, they've made the semi-finals in 11 of the last 13 years. Yes, they've made the semi-finals in the last 3, winning one of them. But I'd be amazed if they managed it this year. Bellingham is going to have to continue going off like a rocket. He is overperforming his XG more than any player in Europe right now.
No.
Which is
tap-ins though.
I know, it's kind of mental. I think because a few of them have been headers.
Yeah, true. That
but
must be
I mean, fair play to him. He's playing fantastically well at the moment. But I think I wouldn't underestimate Union Berlin. They're a really tricky side to face, as many sides in the Bundesliga have discovered over the last, really uncomfortable side to face. Napoli, did have that loss to Lazio, but I still think they're a good side. Braga, I'm less convinced about. I think Real Madrid gets through their group, but I'd back pretty much any of the 5-6 favourites against Real Madrid if they came up against them right now.
Oof, I'm not as down on Joselu being the striker as you are. Like, he's in the Spanish team. I think he's looked pretty decent in the minutes he's had for Real Madrid so far. I just think teams going to the the Bernabeu, especially the new Bernabeu, the spectacular Bernabeu, with the renovations just look incredible. That's still going to get on people's minds. And I think with that full stadium roaring once more, Bellingham keeps going. I agree with you, but if they get to January and they can get someone else in through the door up front, if they can recognise, fill the holes of their issues, as you've said, the injuries that they've got in the side. I don't think Rudiger filling in for Militao is a big deal.
But he's not probably quite.
Kepa for Courtois, I agree with you, but
I guess the worry is if they were to get any more major injuries now, then they start looking incredibly thin. Didn't really strengthen at right back, did they, in the summer? There are definitely reasons to worry.
From Valverde. They need Valverde to hit top form.
Arda Güler.
Arda Güler's coming back in October. He's injured
hot.
already. Vinicius Jr. is already out. He's out to the end of September. Hopefully he's not going to have an injury hit campaign, but he did play a lot of football last year. I'm just less sure on them than I've ever been.
Fair enough.
But, flop maybe a little bit harsh. Right, guys, what did you guys think of our shouts for, dark horse winners and flop? Get yours in the comments down below. It's time for Big Match Predictions. It's time for Big Match Predictions, and we didn't do any last week because it was international break. So to bring you back up to speed, these are the scores on the doors. It's incredibly tight. Makabin is on 8, I am on 6, and Henry is on 5. So all to play for ahead of some huge ties this weekend. Absolutely massive. Arguably couldn't be any bigger so far. Henry, this is a game I'm incredibly excited for. Bayern Munich versus Bayer Leverkusen, Friday 7:30 p.m. Second versus first, separated by goal difference. Doogie's babysitting and is going to get this on the TV.
Nice.
And I'm buzzing.
Yeah, me too, actually. I talked about Bayern earlier, so I'll just focus on Leverkusen.
Nice.
For this. Low-key, just have built, for a team that are not even in European football, the team they've assembled, starting 11-wise anyway, is fantastic. Tapsoda, who's wanted by lots of teams, Hincapié and Jonathan Tah, all wanted defenders in that back line. Grimaldo and Frimpong as the wing backs, with this Arthur guy they brought in as well from Brazil. And then you've got Palacios and Granit Xhaka in midfield, Wirtz, Hoffman, Boniface in attack. Then you got Teller on the bench, Adli, Hlojek, Kosunu, Schick. He's coming back from injury too. They've got bodies that are going to cause serious damage. They're the third youngest team in the Bundesliga, but what I really like about their summer business is getting those more experienced heads in that side. Granit Xhaka, this is the new stat of the year, I've decided. You know how one always expected threat?
Okay.
It's secondary assists. I think that's going to be huge this year.
Second assists.
It's the pass leading...
Before the pass.
The pass before the pass.
It's the Thiago Alcantara stat.
There we go.
He always was big on that.
Big Granit has 4 so far, which is the leader in the Bundesliga. So he also leads the Bundesliga for passes into the final third and has a 91% pass accuracy and has scored as well. So Granit
scored a banger for Switzerland on Tuesday
and did that
well.
too. So Xhaka's up and running. Boniface, it's absurd. 4 goals and 2 assists in 3 games so far. What a beast up front he is. He didn't score loads for Union last year, but he's just gone off like a rocket.
Union's in the by the way.
His 11 shots against... Yes, thank you. His 11 shots against Gladbach was a Boehly record since they started taking data in like 2004-05 or something like that. Like, he's at 7 shots per 90 at the moment. It's pretty wicked what Victor Boniface is doing so far. And then I think Florian Wirtz, to have got another season out of him, to have had such a serious injury and come back the way he has, is remarkable. So since he's come back, he's created 13 clear-cut chances last January, and that is the most in the Bundesliga. So normally it takes a player to warm up a little bit. He's straight back into it. It's amazing. 1 goal, 2 assists this season, 13 chances created as well. Only Kramaric has done more in the Bundesliga. And if you look at the way that Xabi Alonso's got them playing, last year when he took them over, they were more of like a defensive block, hitting teams on the break, which is fair enough when you're taking over a team that were really struggling.
They're conceding a lot.
This year, there was a great article on The Analyst about this. He's unleashed them. They're pressing way higher, but they're also like a big passing team too. Like, I think that they've got the highest rate of shots resulting after like a 10-pass play or something like that. So they're which is not surprising. You know, Xabi Alonso is one of 3 players in the Bundesliga to ever have achieved over 200 passes in a single game, or attempted something like that.
I was about to say, that's mad.
Over 200 passes for one player.
Yeah,
that's
in a game.
Crazy,
There's only 3 players who have attempted it, and he's one of them. So yeah, he's
must have been under Pep.
He's just got them playing like unbelievable football. They're scoring goals. They're dangerous. And yeah, I think it's been 31 years since they won a trophy. I think this could be the year. Their record against Bayern, they did beat them in the last time they played in March last year. But that was like their first win in 9. So and there was only like 1 draw in that time. So it's very lopsided, obviously. This game, it's fascinating. I'm going to go for, despite everything I've said, I'm going to go for a 2-1 to Bayern. But I still don't know.
I remember a few. It has been tight with them at the top. I think there was a December meeting a few years ago that I really remember, and everyone was like, "Is this the time where Leverkusen are going to get one over Bayern?" And Lucas Hradecky, I think, had a bit of a shocking error. I think Jonathan Tah did as well, or Jonathan Tah, I should say, the more German pronunciation. Oh, I'd love to say a Leverkusen win. I'm not actually going to go for that, but I am going to go for the Desmond.
Oh, I was thinking about that.
2-2.
Yes.
I think this is going to be a really fun game. I absolutely can't wait for this.
Once criticised, now
finally embraced.
Celebrated. Yeah,
I'm going to go for a Desmond as well.
2-2.
Yeah, it was on my mind. I'm not going to change my mind. So
love that. Stick by your guns.
Yeah,
you did that in the first week and it got you a perfect score.
It did indeed.
Respect the 2 pundits going for the same score. I've always looked down on it. But
can I change to 3-2 to Bayern? Can I
really? Going for the extra point?
Yeah, I want the bonus.
Okay.
You're
getting
the Brucey bonus.
The Bundes point. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but guys, that's going to be absolutely massive. Look forward to that. Yeah. Right. Speaking of massive, Inter Milan versus Milan.
Yes. Huge.
Saturday, 5 p.m. First versus second, separated by goal difference.
Wow.
McCubs. Huge game.
Yeah, really big game. Early pace setters in the league. I think they probably are on the basis of what we've seen so far, and I think the makeup of the squads as well. I think they probably are the 2 favourites for the Scudetto this year, Inter and AC. Both won 3 from 3. Inter haven't even conceded a goal yet. Both sides have scored 8 so far. From an Inter perspective, Lautaro has just started the season on absolute flames, hasn't he? 5
Ridiculous.
goals already. That's from an XG of under 3, so he's already kind of hitting around double what he should be based on the chances that he's getting. And I was looking into it, like Lautaro's reputation for kind of constantly missing chances, I think is really unfair, actually. You know, like, since his first full season with Inter, which I think was the 2019-20 season, he has consistently outperformed his XG. And I think
people just remember the World Cup.
People remember the World Cup. People remember the odd big miss in a big game or whatever. But generally speaking, he puts away quite hard chances, and I think is really good at finding really good positions and scoring. Like, it's, you know, last year was the second year in a row he topped 20 in the league. So I think, you know, he is very much one of the elite number 9s in Europe now. I don't think there's any question about it. And Marcus Thuram has settled in really nicely. Got a great first goal against Fiorentina. Fantastic header from him. And yeah, this Inter side in general.
Denzel Dumfries is really good.
Yeah, Denzel Dumfries. I think Denzel Dumfries has always been quite underrated since joining Inter, to be honest. But yeah, that side is, you know, seems relatively settled despite losing Skriniar in the summer, despite Onana leaving. yeah, I really like the makeup of this team. Fratesi as well. Got a brace for Italy midweek too, to kind of ease pressure on Luciano Spalletti, who's not sure why he took the Italy job when he wanted a break from everything, but there you have it. But yeah, so I think this Inter team are really. Yeah, just look really, really comfortable early in the season. I think Milan have started really well as well, but injuries are a little bit of a problem going into this game. You know, Giroud already has 4 goals. He's now out injured, as is Kalulu, as is Benacer, who's been out for a little while now. Tomori also serving a ban for this game, got sent off against Roma. So we're looking at potentially a Tior and Kier centre-back pairing. And as much as Kier has been, a great leader in that side, I think he only started 3 games after February for Milan towards the back end of last season. So, yeah, I'm a little bit worried about Milan's defensive capabilities in this game, especially with Giroud out. That will probably mean that Okafor would get his first start, which will be really interesting to see. But I just think that Inter side is a bit more settled in each area of the pitch. So I think I'm probably going to go for an Inter win here. I'm going to go 2-1. Oh, damn it. Was that what you're going to go for?
I think
Join
so.
me.
I can't. Henry,
No, you go.
Henry, what are you going?
You go.
Okay. Yeah, I think with the injuries at the back and the suspensions at the back, I can only see an Inter win. But having said... I don't know. No, I actually might go 1-1. Might go 1-1.
Nice. Yeah, I think Inter are going to do them here quite bad. 3-1.
Oh, love it. Okay. Final game, Sunday night, 8 p.m. Real Madrid versus Real Sociedad. First versus 8th. There's 6 points between them. Talked about both these sides extensively, so I'm just going to skip over this. It's basically the Kubo derby. He will be fully motivated. He has started the season on absolutely flaming form for Real Sociedad. Yeah, he's been sensational. 3 goals and 1 assist in 4 games. Now at 0.5 expected goals and assists per 90. Not amazing just yet in terms of his XG, but watch him play. Watch his contribution for Japan after coming off the bench the other night against Germany. Really good fun player. I'm starting a campaign for him to replace Mo Salah when Mo Salah leaves Liverpool.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stick by it. I really like him. I think he's a great player. So fun to watch. Real Sociedad, not been scintillating at the start of the year, but I think they'll be okay in this game. Having said that, Real Madrid at home before a big Champions League week, I think Real Sociedad would be nervous. I'm actually going to go 3... I'm going to go 3-1 to Real Madrid.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. I might just go for a 1-0 Real Madrid, to be honest. I think I might go for a 1-0 Real Madrid. Bellingham in the 91st minute or something like
simple.
that. Yeah.
I haven't convincingly blown teams away, have they? I think this could be a bit of a duff, to be honest. 0-0.
Really?
Henry.
Well, it doesn't change anything, does it? No, I'm not,
You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to do
I was going to go 1-0 Madrid, but on the basis of mixing it up a bit, I'll go for a 0-0.
that. 0-0. There
That's
we
where
have
you two are
it.
going wrong this episode.
Yeah.
I've gone wrong every episode so far, so it doesn't make any difference, really.
Right, guys, that has been Continental Club for another week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed our big match predictions and thoughts about the upcoming Champions League campaign, which kicks off again on Tuesday night. Get ready for that. Have a great weekend, guys. We'll catch you later in the week. Bye-bye.